It's Cook with Jake and Joy without Jake.
Where's Jake?
Jake's with Jameson. So Jake just had a baby 4 months ago, and while we really wanted to do this show because it's been a year since we've been able to shoot, we knew that there was going to be a little bit of a challenge, and sure enough, Jameson is done shooting for today. So I'm going to be doing this one by myself. Derek, of course, is going to be helping, and so any questions you have, just ask Derek. He's going to be there. We are going to make, first of all, let me welcome you to Season 8 if you haven't already been welcomed. We've been doing this show for quite a while, Derek and me, and then Jake joined us a couple of seasons ago. And what we attempt to do is to bring you the very best in plant-based eating, not tricky recipes, things that you can do, things that you can adjust yourself. We don't even use really strict measurings. It's just kind of the idea of, oh, those flavors would be really good together. And today's going to be a classic example of that, where we're going to marry some flavors together that you're going to go, oh, wow, I never thought of that. A lot of times when people think about risotto, they think about having a really creamy, rich dish. And in fact, I've asked places if they could make my risotto vegan, and they're like, what are you talking about? You can't make risotto vegan, but you absolutely can. And what you're going to need if you want to make this dish is you're going to need to have some arborio rice. You need to have a wide variety of mushrooms, some plant-based sausage, some frozen peas or fresh peas if you can actually find them. I like to use a plant-based butter. I like Miyoko's myself, and I like a plant-based Parmesan. I like Follow Your Heart. It's very good. You're going to need a dry white wine, and you're going to need some either no chicken vegetable broth, or if you make your own vegetable broth, you can use that as well. We're also going to use some shallots. We're going to use some sage, and we're going to use some salt and some pepper. So, should we get started?
Is that black Himalayan salt?
No, this is, I tried to find black Himalayan salt, and there was none to be found. I needed it for another recipe, and I guess it's a thing, but I couldn't find it anywhere. First thing we're going to do is we're going to cook the mushrooms. Now, I love mushrooms, and a lot of people, when they taste things that I make that have mushrooms in them instead of meat, don't realize that they're not getting meat because it takes on the flavor of all the spices that you're putting in. Whole Foods carries this really cool sampler. They have ones that have oyster mushrooms. This is a wide variety, and this recipe, it's not really a recipe. I kind of took it off the back of one of the packages of the arborio rice, and I'm adapting it. But it's got a wide variety of mushrooms, and I'm also just going to use ones that you're familiar with, shiitakes, whites, creminis, and each one of them has a slightly different nutritional profile, so it's good to eat a wide variety of mushrooms. And if you've listened to us for a while now, you know that what we like to do is have you follow Joel Fuhrman's advice, which is to eat G-bombs. We actually call it AG bombs. So the A stands for avocado, and we added that ourselves, but the B is for berries, the O is for onion, the M is for mushrooms, and the other B is for beans, and the S is for seeds, and then we added the A for avocado. When you cut these mushrooms up, so this recipe will definitely get you the M from the G-bombs, and shallots actually also fall into the category of onions, so you're going to get that as well. So you're going to choose a wide variety here. We want to have it look kind of fun. You can quarter them, you can slice them. It doesn't really matter if you do them all uniformly or not. If people kind of get stuck on that with dishes, you don't have to have everything look the same way. We're going to do some of these. Derek, you looked up what these were called. What are they called? Anyway, there's some really different looking mushrooms. These are enoki mushrooms in the center, and then these are a different type of enoki mushroom next to them. So we're going to use all of them, and while I'm finishing this, I'm going to actually get the burner going, and I'm going to get some Miyoko's butter going in the bottom. We're going to get that melted all nice and lovely, and we're going to cook the mushrooms first, and then we're going to set them aside while we make the risotto. Now, if you've made risotto before, you know that you have to let it soak up a lot of liquid, and so that's what we're going to be doing a lot of today.
That is a lot of mushrooms.
Yeah, now what I'm doing here is I'm saving the stems because I make my own broth, and you can see that here. And every time I cut up vegetables, I have a Ziploc bag that I just dump everything into, and you can freeze it and let it collect for as long as you want. Or you can just, my thing is that once that bag is full, I just dump it into a big pan and I add water and I'm good to go. And I usually will add a little bit more onion, I'll add a little bit more potato, I'll add some black pepper. You can see a recipe that we shot that one season, didn't we, Derek?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, making broth. And broth is one of the best things that you can do you can replace coffee with it. I drink it in the morning with a little bit of Tabasco in it. I love it. It gives me that little shot of that zing, that you get from caffeine. But I really love it. And then it also is really high in all of the things that help your body to produce collagen. So, if someone's trying to sell you on a collagen supplement, what I recommend is that you realize that you can't absorb an exogenous collagen. You have to actually get your body to produce more collagen. So do your joints a favor, do your skin a favor, and make your own broth and increase your collagen levels that way. So we're going to add all of these to the pan. And I could put the garlic and the shallots in now, but what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to add that. I'm going to actually add the garlic and the shallots when I'm doing the risotto, because as it absorbs all of the broth and the wine that we're going to put in it, it's going to absorb all of the flavor from the shallots and from the garlic. I've never seen these. This is a different kind of gnocchi, and I've never seen that before. So you could make this with any variety of mushrooms that you wanted to. And let's just get those moving together kind of nicely and not having them stick to the bottom. Now when you make risotto, you're going to want to have a pan this size, because the risotto is going to go in here and quite a bit of liquid is going to go in as well. And speaking of liquid, the broth that we need has got to be heated up. So we're going to add 3 cups of broth, and I'm going to use this no chicken broth. Even though I've got my own that I made, I want to use the no chicken broth because it's going to give the flavor. I add this to my own broth when I'm drinking broth in the morning, and I really like the combination of flavors. The only thing I don't like about packaged broth is that they add other stuff to it, and they don't have all of the nutrients in it that you're going to have if you make your own broth from the ends of your produce. Plus, it's expensive. This is, I think, close to $4 a box for 4 cups, and this I made for nothing, right? I made this from everything that I had left over from making all of the other things that I made. So we're going to get these nice. We're going to get the mushrooms to exactly the way we want them to look in the dish, and then we're going to set them off to the side. I got inspired to make this dish because my husband, back when he was not eating vegan, loved a dish that he used to get at an Italian restaurant that was made with gnocchi, heavy cream, English peas, prosciutto, and mushrooms. And I thought, wow, how cool would it be if I could make something like that he would like, that's vegan. And that's what I'm attempting to shoot for today. I'm just making this recipe up on the fly, and you get to be a part of it. And I'm really excited to share it with you. Let me get a bowl for those mushrooms. Okay, so let's add that here. And then I'm going to let the little remains of the mushrooms just stay in the pan. There's no reason that I can't have that mushroomy flavor get into the rice right away, the arborio rice. Arborio rice is a completely different kind of rice than any other kind of rice, and I've been trying to research whether or not arborio rice actually carries the same level of arsenic that white rice does. That's a big thing that Jake and I have been learning about that rice, which Jake dearly loves. She and her husband eat it almost every day. And they just discovered that all rice has unusually high amounts of arsenic in them. So what are you going to do if you love to eat rice? Now I'm taking this recipe off of the back of not the whole recipe, but the recipe that calls for the shallots and for the garlic. And I just think you can't go wrong with shallots and garlic. Shallots have they have a flavor like a cross between an onion and a garlic, and the nutrient content is actually pretty similar too. And I probably should have done this off camera, because you probably don't need to see me struggling to peel a shallot. What do you think, Derek?
I'm just waiting for something bad to happen.
Yeah. That's always what you're waiting for when you're shooting with me.
Roll tape.
What's going to happen? So these little peels are going to go into my broth bag, and I'm going to I just didn't expect that I was going to have this much. You see that I peeled one of them in advance. So we're just going to go with that one. I'm going to scoop all of this up, put it into my broth container, and as I'm chopping these, I'm going to melt more myokos. And I'm going to chop these up and then saute them before I add the rice. Now, one way that you can get around the arsenic and rice problem is to soak your rice beforehand, but it won't work when you're making risotto this way. You can just boil risotto, and then you could absolutely do it that way. But with when you're making risotto that you're having it absorb all of these flavors, you can't boil it because it won't absorb anything. It's already going to be really, really done, right? So I'll set that over there. Chop up these shallots. Chop up this garlic. I could use Jake right now. So we're going to add these to the butter and get that going. And let me just check the back of my recipe to make sure that I'm doing this right. We want to get this. So I've got some of the crispy bits from the mushrooms, which is really kind of cool. And I think I'm going to add a little bit of sage to this mixture too, and just get it kind of a different flavor. My son-in-law is a really good cook, and he suggested that we add this. I was trying to get my husband to remember what he thought the flavoring was when he did this. And we can add the fresh sage to the mix at the end as well. Anything that has an aromatic scent to it it's full of antioxidants. So I always try to add fresh herbs to almost everything I do. I add them to salads, I add them to just about anything, because the antioxidant level, polyphenol level, all of that is just, it adds so much to what you're doing. And we want to get this sage to just crisp up a little bit in with this Miyoko's butter. And then add the shallots, garlic, saute for 2 minutes, and then add the rice until all the grains are coated. And we're going to add 1 cup of rice. Yes, 1 cup of rice. There's a couple of different brands out there, and when we were on vacation this summer, I really wanted to make risotto, and we went to there's one store in the whole town, and I had to pay $10 for a little thing of rice like this.
Wow.
Yeah, it was like, geez, we might as well have gone to the restaurant. So we're going to get this rice nice and coated. Are you able to see that, Derek?
Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah. Yeah, so all the rice, you want to get it kind of with a sheen on it. Really important to get that sheen. And we want to get those crispy bits at the bottom, because that's going to give it a lot of flavor. A lot of flavor. Now I've heated up the broth, and I'm also going to take a cup of dry white wine. I should probably have a glass to be drinking this out of as well.
You can just drink it out of the bottle.
Out of the bottle, that'd be okay?
Classy move.
Yeah, classy move. All right, so we're going to add the rice, add the wine. Okay, so we're going to add the wine right away. So normally when I make risotto, I kind of go back and forth, but they want me to just do it right straight off. So I'm going to add the wine. I'm going to cook. So that doesn't even seem fair. All the wine's going to cook off. Jeez. So we want to get that all absorbed, and then we're going to start to add the broth a cup at a time. And I like to make sure that I'm using a handled measuring cup so that I'm not burning my hand as I'm dipping it into the broth. So we're adding the wine until it's totally absorbed, and then we're going to take a cup of broth, stirring it until it's almost absorbed, and we're going to keep adding the broth until it's all absorbed, and then we're going to take it off and add the rest of the ingredients. So pretty simple dish. The thing that takes the time is getting it to absorb, getting the heat up high enough, and continuing to add some more flavor. So I think I'll keep adding a little bit more sage. Do you like sage, Jared?
I do like it. I think it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, what do you like it in?
Everything. I like it in Italian food.
So the most popular thing in Italian food is to put it into, it's like a butternut squash ravioli. And I don't like that myself. Jake and her dad love it, but I don't like sweet ravioli, because that's really what it is. Have you had that?
I don't think so.
And they get the sage really crispy, so it's really good, but I don't like the
Why don't we make that on the show?
the thing I don't like?
Yeah. The challenge would be to make it good so you like it.
Well, making gluten-free ravioli, I would probably just buy it. You can buy gluten-free pastas now pretty easily. My husband and I went to Venice a couple of years ago when it was Jake's first wedding anniversary. And we took the whole family. Of course, that's what you do on your wedding anniversary, right?
Spend it with your parents.
Yeah, you spend it with your parents. So we went to Lake Como, and we went to Venice, and my son-in-law is really into Formula One, so we watched the Formula One race, and we went to Venice, and Sandy and I took a cooking class, and we learned how to make ravioli and gnocchi and all of this stuff. But man, it's hard. It's hard to make pasta. Alex, my son-in-law, is now doing it quite frequently. They got given a pasta maker for their wedding, and so he's been doing it. You know what I forgot to add?
Mushrooms.
No, I forgot to add the sausages. I've got the mushrooms. We're going to add that at the end, but I was going to put sausages in them, and I think that I should still do that. I'll just have to get a different pan, and we'll add, because otherwise, if I don't add the sausages, it's not going to be the same dish, right? I mean, sausage and prosciutto are very different. Now, this is a vegan brand of sausage that I have not used before, and that I'm hoping is delicious because Beyond Meat sausage was sold out. So everybody is making a sausage now, and this one is gluten-free. I believe, yep, it's gluten-free, and I've never tried it before, but we're going to give it a try in this dish, and I just need to get out another pan. Hold on. Okay, so luckily we've got plenty of room. I'm going to get this going. Shoot. And with these sausages, they're pretty high in fat, so you don't really have to add any oil to them to get them going. Well, most of them are. I shouldn't make that assumption about this because I've never made this before. Let's see what the fat content is on this actually. So the fat content on this is high, yeah. So they should have plenty of fat on their own. And this is actually pretty cool. I'm making a really good use of my time because this is going to have to absorb most of this liquid before I add any more. Do you like risotto, Derek?
I love risotto. We made pumpkin risotto on the show.
We did a couple of seasons ago. That was like a Thanksgiving theme that we made a lot of pumpkin things. We made pumpkin latte. That was kind of crazy. What kind of risotto do you like the most?
I don't know the difference.
You don't?
Just say risotto and it shows up.
So you see how this liquid is all getting absorbed? See that? And this rice has an amazing ability to absorb. Usually if you put a cup of regular rice, you would just put 2 cups of liquid. We're putting 4 cups of liquid. So this rice is designed to absorb liquid, which is really, 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 really friggin' awesome. So pour another cup in. Cool. And you don't have to, if I didn't say so, you don't have to use the no chicken broth. You could use the veggie broth. You could use a broth that you're making. I just think that when you use that, if you're especially if you're converting to a plant-based diet and you still want those flavors that you're used to, you've been used to using chicken broth, this is going to be a little bit more familiar to you. So we're going to keep getting this browned up. And the peas we don't have to do anything to, which I think is really fantastic. Peas are such an amazing vegetable. I don't eat them very often because they don't seem readily available. Do you eat peas?
I love peas. What do you mean? Is it hard to find them?
Yeah, I mean, like you can order them in a restaurant, but like I mean, like who takes home peas and shells them? I mean, like that's what we did when we were kids. We had a garden and we would shell them, and it's just a big pain in the butt, right? I mean, it's unbelievable that I bought this bag of organic peas for, I don't know, I think $3. And when I think about how many people had to shell these, pick them, shell them, and get them into these bags, and I can buy them for $3, that just seems ridiculous.
It's a bargain.
It's ridiculous. Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So I want to say just a couple things about vegan Parmesan cheese, because that's what we're going to use in this. There are lots of varieties out there, and you can actually make your own. The woman who makes the vegan butter that we use also has a recipe book. I guess you call it a cookbook, not a recipe book.
You can call it whatever you want. It's your show.
Yes, you can. It's a book that has recipes in it. So you can call it a cookbook or a recipe book. But she has actually a book called Vegan Pantry. I have it over here. Let me get it. She's got this book called Vegan Pantry, and in it she shows you how to make her butter. She basically shows you how to make everything that she sells, but she knows that you're too lazy to make it. I'm too lazy to make it. So you can buy it from her, but she shows you how to make cheeses and just a whole variety of things. And she shows you how to make your own several different types of cheeses if you want to make your own, if you don't want to actually buy it. And she makes some phenomenal cheeses. But today I'm using Follow Your Heart, and they're actually a company that's down in LA. And they're one of the first companies to come out with vegan substitutes. They're the makers of Vegenaise. If you use that, it's a replacement for mayonnaise. We use that quite a bit. And I love how brown this is getting. You see that? Really getting browned up. Now this doesn't cook quite as fast as Beyond sausages do. The Beyond Meat sausages cook pretty fast, and they seem to have a lot less of a fat content, even though on the label it says that they're fairly high in fat, but I don't have the oil coming off of them like I would from the Beyond Meat. So this is just going to continue to absorb and absorb. And it's really important these last stages, even though it seems like monotonously boring, you have to just keep letting it cook off. All right, so all the liquid got absorbed. It just took a little bit of time. So now we're going to add the mushrooms, and they've still got a little bit of liquid in them, so that's going to get absorbed also into the risotto, and that's going to add a really yummy, really mushroomy taste. Really mushroomy.
That's my favorite part of this so far.
The
mushrooms. Oh yeah, I love mushrooms.
Do you? I never knew that about you.
My favorite thing.
Well, we're going to make some more dishes with mushrooms this season, so you're going to love it. And then we're going to add the faux sausage, and you know, I have not used this sausage before. I hope it's delicious. I hope it adds to the flavor and to the texture and to the yumminess of this. I don't think that sausage can replace prosciutto. If that's, you know, the taste that you're after, prosciutto's got kind of that salty taste if you've ever had prosciutto. A lot of vegans watching this show, maybe you've never even had prosciutto in your life. We'll add a little bit more of that. And then we're going to add the peas. And this is going to add some really good color, and I also think it's going to add some really good texture, and also, of course, more nutrition. So you can see I'm carefully measuring those. Carefully measuring.
Always important on this show to measure.
Always important. What I'm going by is look. And in a lot of cooking, you can go by look, because a lot of things you're matching. Like you want, especially when it's the major part of it. So I want to have the same amount of mushrooms, the same amount of sausage. I want to have the same amount of peas as I have mushrooms and sausage. And so I can probably get away with a little bit more. These are organic peas, which I think is, you know, whenever you can buy organic, it's important. But just know that in the United States, we don't use a lot of pesticide on food. It's the amount that we use compared to what we used in the 50s has gone down dramatically. So get what you can afford, and you can check out EWG, Environmental Working Group site, to see which of the 12 you should really use always organically, and that's called the Dirty Dozen. And then there's the Clean 15, and those are the ones that you can kind of get away with, you know, not having them be. So now we've got this all together, and this would be delicious just like it is, but we're going to add some Parmesan, some faux Parmesan to it. I think you're going to love it. I'm going to move it over here, get it off the heat, turn off the heat. And let's see, the recipe calls for how much? The recipe calls, it doesn't really say how much Parmesan. It says a quarter of a cup. I think we need a little bit more than a quarter of a cup. But let's start with a quarter of a cup and see what we think. Now, like I said earlier, there's a few different kinds of Parmesan. This is shredded Parmesan. This is a granulated it's called Parma, vegan Parma. I'm going to put a little bit of both into them, just so we get a few different Parmesan flavors. I think the more flavor, the better, right?
Absolutely.
And we're going to put some salt and pepper into it. I want to get that in so it starts to melt a little bit. I think you're going to like this dish, Derek.
Is there any problems with faux cheese melting?
Some of them, yeah, but this one I've used before in risotto. I haven't made this exact dish before, but I've made multiple risottos. And you know what I like about this recipe is that it actually doesn't call for cream, but I am going to add a little bit more. I think it should be a little bit creamier than that, and that's possibly because I added more of the other stuff. We're going to get some salt and pepper. And you know, salt, I like to let people add their own salt. You know, so many people have different salt tastes, and it depends on how you were raised. what your beliefs are, what your high blood pressure level is, all of that. And there we have it. Oh my goodness, I think, oh, it looks really good. Really, really, really good. This is a dish that I think that any Italian restaurant would be happy to have on their menu. And they wouldn't probably even need to tell people that it was vegan. People probably wouldn't be able to tell.
Maybe we should open a restaurant called Jibamza.
Jibamza? Yes, I think that would be good. Jibamza, Jibamza. All right. Beautiful, beautiful. And we're going to put it into a beautiful dish and serve it to your beautiful guests. And you're going to have a beautiful night. I hope you love it as much as I think I'm going to. Have a great one. We'll see you next time.